name is Susan, and I'm with Ahava FN, and welcome today. We are very excited to keep our health movement going, and we are bringing inspiring women onto the show to talk about how they changed their lifestyle and how they went from sadness, anxiety, depression, to a lot of other chronic health conditions to thriving in life. And I have to mention that half of the population has a chronic condition, but there are choices, there is hope. It's just about educating yourself, and that is what our mission here at Ahava is, to really educate you so you can make different choices. And I have to bring up a study before we get into what Dar has to say, and it's by M.P. Bennett and Zeller. And there is a study on how laughter can counteract stress and boost the immune system and create healthy cell activity. And you're probably wondering, how can I be laughing and find joy in this world with the chaos and everything that's going on in this world? And this is where our joyologist Dar comes in, and she has written this fabulous book called Reignite Your Joy, and she is a Nebraska author and public speaker and spreading joy everywhere. But she wasn't born this way. She had a lot of trials. So let's kind of start with that. Let's kind of tap into let's talk about the trials and the suffering and just the hardships, because you are this extraordinary woman who I think you're an amazing human being, and just really took that and is living and thriving in life. So what kind of what kind of started the book, and then let's kind of talk about your trials.
Okay, what started the book? In 2020, which we all know was a very trying year for everybody, my nutrition business that I owned had come to a smaller space of time and work. And so I asked the Lord, what should I do with the rest of my time? And I found a person who was counseling and coaching me, and we got to know one another, and she said, "You got an amazing story. Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, you need to be praying about it." So we prayed about it, and it was very clear to me that God wanted me to write my story, to inspire, but mostly to empower others, that you can have joy in spite of what's going on around you, that it's an inward experience. Yep. Yeah, and it's a process as well. So I found a publisher who I was able to talk to because I'm a type A personality.
No.
Yeah. And so anyway, I talked my whole story, my whole biography, my whole life into a book, and that's how we discovered Reignite Your Joy, Let God Lead Your Dance Through Life. That's the second title to my book. So I wrote it in 2020. It was released in 2021.
Fantastic.
So
what happened? And with your story, what happened? I mean, I know there was some addiction in there, yes, and there was just what was going on?
Yeah, well,
before you kind of jumped into this new lifestyle.
Right. BC, I call it, before Christ. I was married, had 2 children, and I was addicted. Number 1, to retail therapy. Don't mess with my retail shopping.
Oh boy.
It filled me up.
It was a pleasure. It was a quick...
At the moment.
It was a quick fix pleasure.
Quick fix. Mm-hmm. Gone the next day.
Yeah.
Also, I was addicted to alcohol.
Yeah.
And smoking.
Okay.
So all of these were temporary fixes to fill the pain or the emptiness that was in my heart and in my gut. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that those were the ways that I learned how to cope. So through my story of recovery from addictions, the loss of 2 soulmates, which is part of my story, and breast cancer, I have been called by God to share how I went through these things and the tools that I learned to how to navigate through trials, a healthy way.
So what made you, so you're in the throes of, addiction and retail therapy, which I know a lot of people have, they have that addiction. And then also you're not doing your body justice by drinking and smoking, and that's creating a lot of havoc inside of your body.
Yes.
And so what was that moment that you said, you know what, I need to do something different? Because I know a lot of women are probably, you know, they're going through a divorce, or, you know, they may be dealing with some type of trial, but how did you know to get help? What made that happen?
You mentioned all the things that I went through in my marriage, that we went through a process of divorcing, but didn't divorce by God's grace. So I was at the end of myself.
You're at the end of yourself.
Yes.
Rock bottom?
Rock bottom. My marriage was a failure. I felt like I was a failure as a wife and as a parent to my children. And I just...
Did you feel like a failure to yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally, what's the word? Sacrificed my true self in ways that I never wanted to do. I knew things that I was doing were wrong. Mm-hmm. And I was just hooked on trying to get relief immediately.
Yeah.
So going through a lot of these trials with my husband and with my children, I came to the end of myself one day where I was just crying out to God and saying, please help me, I can't do it myself.
So you surrendered?
I surrendered.
Yeah, you let go.
I wanted to change. I knew what I was doing wasn't helping.
Mm-hmm.
It was making things worse.
Yeah.
But my dependencies were on the wrong things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, your dependencies. And so that created this havoc. So you stepped into this. So you surrendered. And then what happened after you surrendered?
Actually, my surrender was asking God to help me change.
Okay.
So I asked Jesus to come into my heart.
Okay.
Help me change.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it by myself. And he came.
Okay. And how did he come? How did he show up in that way?
Well, I had a peace about that, crying out and being at the end of myself. And then gradually, over time, I was led to a 12-step program to help me get some sanity, because I just really did feel like I was insane.
Yeah.
And so, and emotional.
Sure.
All of those things,
sure,
right?
yeah.
And I was in midlife also. So I
had
was
a lot
led
of hormones going on.
Oh, a lot of hormones
Yeah.
and changes going on as well. And led to a 12-step program, which was a spiritual program, which helped me to validate what I had the decision I'd made to ask Christ into my heart, and learned some tools that I could use, and also accountability. I wanted to be accountable. So God helped me meet people who were willing to sponsor me and to guide me through working through the steps of the 12-step program. And I began to change. I started admitting a lot of my faults.
So you're facing the mirror.
Inventory. Yep.
You're facing the mirror.
First of all, admitting I'm powerless, and then asking God to help me, and then doing my own personal inventory of my wrongs and confessing them and asking for forgiveness.
And don't you think that has a lot to do with it? We're kind of a society of blame.
Oh.
We blame, 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 instead of saying, what is the thing, like you're pointing at somebody?
You got 3 fingers coming back at you.
Exactly.
So it's all about us. It's all about our personal journey and the decisions we make and the responsibility we take or not.
Yes, absolutely.
And leaning on someone who's got my back, who's greater than me. His power is beyond me.
Sure.
That I don't understand, but I took a step of faith and said, I'm going to trust you, God.
And it's empowered you, and your life started to change immensely.
Immensely.
Yes. I do want to go back to, so you said you filled your body with, I mean, you were smoking and you had a lot of alcohol, which, you know, really can create havoc in your body. Just with the circulatory, it's got 7 systems in your body, and it was probably affecting everything from your circulatory, your liver, your kidneys, the filtration process, and we won't go into the scientific part of it, but you did end up having breast cancer.
I did.
Okay.
And you forgot to mention the mind.
Oh, the mind, yes.
I mean,
it affects the mind, yes.
For me, everything that I do starts up here.
It does. And in functional nutrition, we talk about the mind-body connection.
Yes.
And so explain that more. Everything starts up here. What does that mean to you?
Well, for me, it meant that I looked to God and I started reading the Bible. I was also led to a Bible study fellowship course. So I studied God's Word and started to let it penetrate up here and come into my heart here, which gradually helped me to change, along with the 12-step program of being accountable. And like I said, it's a process, but I just kept taking one step forward in faith. So those are some of the tools that I talk about in my book that help us learn to navigate. I mean, the very first one for me was to ask, to humble myself and admit that I can't make changes that I want to change. Things are getting worse. So to ask means a prayer.
Yes.
And to trust that there's someone and somebody else who really cares much more for me than I do and is going to watch over me. He promises that. So I started learning about God's promises and His Word. Amazing.
So I have to bring this up because I think it's fascinating. You and I were talking on another another time, but you had mentioned that, and I love this, that you had a fear of death.
Oh, yes.
And that it was like becoming obsessive with you.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, one day I was listening to a Christian radio show, and it was all about idolatry. And it struck me in my spirit that this fear that I had of death was an idolatry, that I was putting it before God and trusting Him. And it was consuming me. It was robbing me of my joy, which is, Christ came to bring righteousness, peace, and joy. Mm-hmm. So I confessed, asked for forgiveness. And that was in July of 2010. And in August of 2010, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Which that had to have been devastating, and you're probably like, why me?
Well, it was 4 years after my husband, my soulmate, for 53 years had passed. So it was 4 years after that, and so it was frightening. And God led me to a scripture, Psalm 34, verse 4. I cried out to the Lord. He heard my cry and delivered me from all my fears. So that was my scripture through the whole journey of breast cancer.
And then, so when you were getting chemo and just dealing with the cancer, what happened? That's when you kind of find your purpose. So you had this trial, suffering, and then you really found your purpose through this trial, which is incredible. Exactly. It's incredible, actually.
I'm a type A personality, so I had to lay still for 20 minutes with the radiation. On the radiation table, I had to have radiation. I had a lumpectomy. So I had to lay still because it was going right over my heart. So I had asked a spiritual friend to pray for me and guide me, and she said, just focus on, look away and focus on having a conversation with Jesus. So I did. And one day, it was so clear to me. He said, Darlene, you're my joy giver. I want you to spread my love and my joy to others.
Which you do very well.
Yes, Lord. Thank you. Wow, what an assignment. It's too big for me, but not for you.
Yes. And that is, and that is what is amazing. And this is why you're just so inspiring on just bringing this positivity and affecting people, just whoever surrounds you. And in our next episode, we're going to talk to Dar about the solutions and how she actually became that joyologist, and to really, and how she moved forward into joy. So I'm excited to meet with you next.
You too?
Yes. And so everybody, check us out next episode. Thanks.
Where can you watch KPAO Community Television? You know, the channel with all of the local shows. If you live in the Omaha area, Cox Channel 22 HD is your place. If you prefer streaming, go to kpaoTVOmaha.org. And now, if you have the Apple TV box, grab our app and watch us there. KPAO on cable, streaming live, and now on Apple TV.
Cheryl goes to dialysis 3 days a week. Lately, she's been feeling weak, tired, dizzy, cold, and out of breath. At first, she was unsure of the cause of these symptoms. Luckily, she came across the Doctor Conversation Guide for Anemia on kidneyfund.org and talked to her doctor about her symptoms. Cheryl's doctor explained that the majority of patients on dialysis have anemia for a variety of reasons. Ultimately, it is caused by not having enough red blood cells in your body. Cheryl's doctor was happy to share several treatment options and recommend other ways to improve her anemia so that Cheryl can feel like herself again. Visit kidneyfund.org/anemia-ESRD, download our free doctor conversation guide, and talk with your doctor or another member of your healthcare team to find out more about your anemia symptoms and treatment options.
There's no question that exercise is good for your body, but what does revving up your heart rate do for your brain?
There's a massive amount of scientific evidence that indicates that ongoing exercise directly does good things to your brain. It's like liberating fertilizer on your lawn.
Mayo Clinic neurologist Dr. Eric Alskog says your brain shrinks with age. It happens to nearly everyone.
If you're in your 80s, most people, maybe not all, but most people have kind of a shrunken brain. And if you look at under the microscope what's going on, they've also lost a lot of brain connections. And it's less losing brain cells than losing those connections. So what can you do to maintain brain integrity? Well, it's exercise.
What kind of exercise is good for your brain? Dr. Alskog says any exercise that gets your heart pumping and makes you sweaty and tired works. Good for the body and brain. Talk to your healthcare provider before you begin your exercise program. For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Vivian Williams.
KPAO Community Television. It has something new.
Okay, let's talk. What are we making today? Because we're using peppers.
All of your favorite shows
For the dish, I'm Pam Weeks.
are available no matter where you are.
And Marjorie, it's so good to see you.
KPAO on the go. Go to kpaoTVOmaha.org. All of your favorites now streaming.
Hi everybody, my name is Susan and I'm with Ahava FN and I'm your functional nutritionist, and this is Sensible Substitutes. And it's very distressing, but in today's world there are 6 out of 10 people who have a chronic condition. And if we have 4 out of 10 people who have 2 chronic conditions. And in Omaha, Nebraska, the leading chronic conditions that lead into a disease is cardiovascular disease. So what our mission is here today is to help you step into a healthy, vibrant lifestyle through baby steps. And how to do baby steps is just to create sensible substitutions, one by one, until you get to the goal that you want. And so today we're going to talk about oils. And we have bad oils and we have good oils. Those bad oils create a lot of havoc inside your body. It can create oxidation, which can create free radicals, which can lead to disease, like cardiovascular disease. And we want to avoid them. And some of those are vegetable oil, canola oil, there is seed oils like sunflower oils. I want you to go to your kitchen and cabinets and just go get rid of all of them. They're not worth having. I mean, oils we cook with, we use in dressings, and those type of oils, they are so refined, they provide no nutritional benefits to your body, so you can help your body heal. And they're cheap, and they have a very high threshold where the oil doesn't break down. If you're frying foods, fast food restaurants use them, and a lot of restaurants use these oils to cook in, because like I said, it's cheap. So I want you to not buy any at the grocery store and just get rid of them. And what I want you to focus on is avocado oil and olive oil. Those right now, just take that baby step and just bring these 2 oils into your kitchen and start stepping into that healthy lifestyle. And so basically what these 2 oils are is that they have a lot of nutrient benefits. They are a good unsaturated fat, which will help promote healing within your body. Olive oil is fantastic for dressings. It's very simple. All you have to do is add half a cup of olive oil, put some lemon in there, a little salt and pepper, some oregano, shake it up, and you have a great dressing. Or you could put olive oil and apple cider vinegar, or olive oil and red vinegar for your dressings. Dressings over the board are more than likely made with that bad oil. So if you just do that, create your own dressing, you can bring the dressing to any restaurant that you go to, so you know that you're putting good nutrients into your body. Avocado oil is great for cooking. So if you wanted to, saute chicken or vegetables and you wanted to have a little base of an olive oil or an oil, avocado oil has a better high point threshold. And when I talk about a better high point smoke threshold, meaning that if you have a higher temperature, avocado oil is less likely to break down in that cooking process, and that's what you want. So for you to step in this week, go to your kitchen, get rid of all those bad oils, vegetable oils, canola oil, all those seed oils. Go and get avocado oil and olive oil. Pay attention when you go to restaurants to make sure that those restaurants, and request it, can you please cook my food in olive oil or avocado oil? Take charge of your life and start taking those baby steps for a better, healthier you.